Hey everybody, what is going on? Serial Overdrive here, and today we're throwing it back. We're doing a conspiracy theory video, and this one is specifically going to be dealing with the coronavirus. So we're going to go over what the coronavirus is, some of the conspiracy theories that people have, and why a lot of these conspiracies are false, and in general, we're going to try and dispel some fake news that is out there. Now, first off, I'm not a reputable source. If you hear anything here that catches your attention or strikes your interest or you fancy it, Google it, look it up, find reputable sources, and find a lot of them that agree with you before you panic or do anything crazy. So let's just dive right into it. What is the coronavirus? It's sort of the latest and greatest version of SARS. And by latest and greatest, I mean the scariest, the newest and scariest version of SARS. So what this is a virus that started in Wuhan. It started in this place called a sort of live animal market, live meat market, something like that. They were calling it a fish market earlier on, but if you guys aren't familiar with like sort of what this is, in China, I've never been to Wuhan, but in China there's these markets where they basically sell live and dead animals. There's a lot of blood, guts, all that sort of stuff mixing in from different animals, and there's a lot of like different animals there too. Their diets are a little bit more a little bit less selective, I guess, than a lot of Western diets traditionally. So you're going to see a lot more like pork, beef, chicken, but you're also going to see things like, duck, and in some provinces, you're going to see bat. From what I've read and what I believe to be true, Wuhan isn't a place where they actually eat bat a lot. And a lot of the things that you see, like when you see tourists taking pictures like spiders and stuff like that, that's actually for the tourists. Because I've been to like Thailand and they'll have this stuff in the market, and my friends always was like, yeah, local Thai people don't really eat this stuff. This is just tourists that want to be adventurous and eat something crazy. Wuhan is not a touristic place though, from everything I've seen. So this market is probably for the locals. So this virus sort of started up in this market. We're not 100% sure where it came from yet, but it most likely started up in this market and came from one of the animals. It transferred over to humans, and now the scariest part about that virus is it has some human-to-human transmission capabilities. This is all sort of confirmed. It's true. There's some people who have had the virus transferred to them after working with, talking to, or being with people who were infected. So that's 100% true. You can see right here, if we zoom out on this map, you can actually see just how it's spreading, right? You can see there's some cases in Europe, there's cases in the US. Actually, Chicago has a case where I believe it's a woman, transferred it to her husband. Now, obviously, these are people who are in close contact with each other for huge amounts of time, so that would be the most likely person to transfer to. Whether or not it's been transferred to other people is sort of unknown at the moment, right? Like how easy it is to transfer, we don't really know, and that's going to be one of the deciding factors in a lot of just how this all ends up. And that's the scary part. We don't know yet. That's the scariest thing, and that's why all this fake news can sort of take hold. But yeah, the virus basically started in Wuhan. Now there's also a research center that does research on sort of deadly pathogens, diseases, all of that in Wuhan. It seems suspicious, but again, when you're looking at a virus like this, right, you're looking at something that's scary, spreads fast, and doesn't just get beaten off. You probably want you want a place where people are in close proximity. That's going to be a city, right? It needs to be a busy city with people traveling all over. If it's a city where everybody sort of stays local, it's going to be very contained. It's going to be very easy for the government to sort of come in and fix things, okay? Wuhan, there's a lot of people. There's like 11 million people there, I believe. Now there's 9 million people there. That's a little scary. But yeah, there's like 11 million people there. So they're traveling all over. A few of them get the virus, and that's how it spreads. Okay, so that's sort of what you need. Because this is the thing a lot of people forget, right? Like the coronavirus, it's scary because it's actually like caught on and it's transferring and all that, but there is 100%, or well, not 100%, but there is a possibility that something like this has popped up before. Maybe it popped up in some random small village in China. One person got it, they fought it off with their immune system, they thought it was a cold, and life carried on. Okay, so you need a busy city to do that, and this is probably where a lot of these disease centers and all that are going to be located. So some of the things that people are saying, like this is a conspiracy, this could be happening, statistically, it's just a little bit more likely than not. Now, it is a little fishy because there's only one of these centers in China, and it is in Wuhan, so it is a little weird that it started there. But again, a lot of these centers, they're probably going to want them located near where there could be a potential outbreak. So maybe this is just the Chinese being extremely good at figuring out where an outbreak might start. Personally, I think it would be more like Shanghai or Beijing, but maybe because this is more internal, I don't know. But that it's a little weird that lab is there. But for the most part, if you want to believe what everybody's saying, it started in a fish market. And to be honest, it really doesn't matter where it started because we're past that point, right? Like whether or not it was a government thing, we're past that point. And for those of you people out there who are thinking maybe this is a Chinese trying to do some sort of population control thing, highly doubtful, right? This would be an extremely weird version of population control because China's already locked down a ton of cities. So they're basically hitting their GDP by at least 4%. They're going to see a decrease of at least 4% because of this. So this would essentially be tanking your economy to kill people so they don't tank your economy, which makes no sense whatsoever. People saying that, and there's people in China, they're saying that this is the U.S. attacking China. Again, that's extremely unlikely because if you look at this map, the thing with viruses is they travel everywhere, right? It's in the U.S., so any country launching an attack like this would be crazy because even though the epicenter right now is China, there's an extremely low chance that they were going to be able to contain this. And the fact that they've actually managed to contain it this well so far is pretty interesting. And the fact that they literally had to shut down a city shows you just how far they're willing to go to contain it. If the Chinese were just letting it spread, saying it wasn't a problem, and this number, total confirmed, is jumping up all over the globe and China's still saying it's not a problem, then maybe we can start talking. But yeah, I don't think this is any sort of population control or anything crazy like this. When you hear these things, you've just really got to use your head and think about it, right? Like, does China need population control that bad? Probably not. And are they going to risk it? Again, probably not. Because the thing with this virus is, even though right now this virus is fairly inoculate, right? Like there's this death counter, 213 deaths. But if you look at something like the common flu or the common cold or something like that, that's going to have a death count to it too. And that death count is going to be much scarier than 213. Now, you're going to see this number over here, this recovery number, 187. That number is a little deceiving too. So what you're going to notice, most of the people who recovered from this province. And the reason for this is because most of these total confirmed cases were recently found, right? That number's been growing exponentially. You can see it here in the chart. So January 20th, 278 people had it, right? So if most of those people had recovered, that's the highest this number would be, 200 and whatever. Now, one of the things a lot of people forget is that generally for you to be declared free of a virus or recovered, you need to be lacking that virus in your system so it's undetectable, and it needs to have happened or have been undetectable for X amount of days. From what I've heard, usually this amount is 10. Maybe it's 14 with this virus because there is that sort of incubation period that they're saying could be up to 14 days, which is also scary. 14 days without signs, right? That's scary. But maybe they're going to say you've got to be clean of the virus for 14 days. What that means is if you got it on January 20th and you were January 21st, you're right as rain, right? You're out there playing basketball. You got Michael Jordan, you're dribbling against him, beating him or whatever. Doesn't matter, right? Soonest you can be considered recovered is January 31st. So again, think about that. That's why this number is lacking. Now, what we're going to be looking for here in the coming days, right? So like first week of February, second week of February, we're going to be looking for thousands of people to be recovered. If this number stays at 187, that's scary as hell. That is scary as hell. That's a crazy thing. If this number goes up and it's like 9,000, that's pretty reasonable, right? If this number's 9,000 in 2 weeks and this number's 100,000, scary that the number's that big. It is, but that's good. 9,000, that means most people are recovering, right? And then again, this total death number, it is going to grow. There's going to be more people that are dying. And the reason for this is because some people are just weaker than others. Their immune systems can't handle it, right? Think about someone with AIDS, right? If they got this virus, there's an extremely low chance that they're going to be able to beat it off. I'm not saying HIV, I'm saying AIDS, full-blown AIDS. Your immune system is super taxed. If you get a virus, any virus, it's risky, right? It is super risky, man. So like if you get this virus, that's risky. Let's say maybe you are, 100 years old. I'm sorry, but maybe you're going to be added to this count, right? So like the death count is growing, but it's not growing at a crazy rate. If you do the math on this number isn't that big percentage wise, right? Like we're looking at a 2% number, right? And again, you've got to remember, this number is at 2%. That seems scary, but there's only 9,700 confirmed cases. This means they've taken a test and they've been deemed, you've got the coronavirus. There's a lot of people probably who are sick right now. They have a little bit of a cough. Right now, I have a cough, okay? I'm not getting tested for the virus because I don't think I have it, and my symptoms aren't that heavy. You've got to remember, in China, a lot of these places, they don't have a ton of testing kits. Nobody does. Like, a lot of hospitals, they've got 10,000 testing kits, and you're talking about a city of 11 million people. You can't clear 11 million people with 10,000 kits. The math just doesn't work, right? There are more people sick in that city at any one time than they have testing kits right now. So there's a good chance there's people out there that are undiagnosed because they have a low amount of symptoms. Maybe they're showing no symptoms. Maybe they've got a stuffy nose or a little bit of a cough, and they're just trying to ride it out. And some of these people are going to be able to ride it out. Actually, a lot of these people are probably going to be able to ride it out extremely easily. In a week, they're going to be walking around, they're going to be fine, and they're going to be like, hey, just got a cold. I was lucky. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they got the coronavirus, and they fought it off and life goes on. And they're never going to be in this total confirmed number, right? So when you see this total confirmed number of 9,776, I wouldn't say that's the actual number. The actual number is probably way higher. And a lot of people from the CDC to researchers agree with me. You can look that up again. So this number is going to be way higher, but this death count, even though it might be a little bit higher, isn't going to be a crazy amount higher, because generally when someone dies, and the symptoms of this, generally people are dying because of asphyxiation, which means lack of oxygen. I think someone said kidney failure, but I think a lot of the time, like kidney failure and stuff like that is due to lack of oxygen, right? So like lack of oxygen, that's pretty easy to detect. They can go, and most bodies, they do like some analysis on it and they can figure out how they died, right? So maybe this death count is a little bit higher, but it's probably not as high as the count of total confirmed, the number of total confirmed should be, right? So this number should probably be a lot higher. So my guess would be that even though it looks like it's a 2% death count right now, and obviously some of these people that have it, they might die. Like in the end, after a month, we want to be comparing total deaths to total recovered. But right now we're in the early stages, so you can't do that. And a lot of people are doing it because it makes for really good headlines, right? Like look at this. If I wanted to, I could say it's killing 40% of the people that get it. And then there's another percent that's unknown, but 40% killed, 60% recover, or actually less than that, right? 60% are killed, like some crazy number like that, right? You could say that, but that would be, it doesn't make sense. You can't do that because that's not how these statistics work. Anyways, yeah, so we're gonna have to wait and see how this number goes. So you got to keep in mind that the total deaths is gonna increase, but hopefully recovery is going to increase faster as these people who got it sort of after the 24th, as you see it growing exponentially, they recover, right? And a lot of these people are going to recover. So yeah, there's that. You want to keep in mind that these statistics can be played with. They can lie to you. And recovery, usually you want to be clean of the virus for 10 days. So that means if you're diagnosed on the 20th, you're cured on the 21st, you got to wait till the 31st to even announce that you're recovered. So that's why that number is so low when the number of deaths is so high. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at it. A lot of these things look scary, but they're not as scary as you'd think. And again, with the spread, it is scary, right? You don't like to see this. You don't like to see the spread, but you've got to remember, China has essentially locked down the whole country. Flights are being stopped there. This whole province has been locked down. They're doing what they can, honestly, and they're one of the few countries that could do it. If you're in the U.S. trying to lock down New York City, that just can't be done. The same with like the UK and London, or France and Paris, or like New York. I said New York City, right? Any of these places, right? Like Chicago, there's been one case there. They can't lock down the whole city of Chicago. And if they did that, the impact would be huge. It's impossible to do because of the freedoms that we have and the freedoms that most Western countries have. But because China, they don't quite have the same freedoms, they're able to do this, and they're able to really like push against this. And a lot of people are saying, why would China lock down a whole city? Right? That means it's probably way worse. My theory isn't that it's way worse. My theory is that they're worried about getting way worse, because right now, this is a virus that is probably about the same as a cold or flu, as far as just sort of how you feel. Maybe you die, maybe you don't. We don't know 100% of that. So like I'm gonna withhold judgment there. But as far as how you feel when you get it, you might not notice it. You might barely notice it, or you might think you got a light cold or heavy cold or a bit of a flu, but that's sort of where you're standing. And it's scary because, again, it's very hard to differentiate between that and the flu, which that's scary. It really is. But the other thing it means is that we can recover from this, but the difference it has from the flu or from a cold, is that it's likely, and it could mutate. The chances of it mutating into a zombie plague, probably 0%, right? The chances of it mutating into something completely benign, that's possible. The chances of the mutation not having any effect on humans whatsoever, possible too. The chances of it mutating and being extremely easy to spread as it mutates, like sort of going that way, could happen, right? And it could become a more deadly virus through mutations. Any virus can mutate, it's just this one's more susceptible to it. So the reason you'd lock down a whole city is because you've got 11 million people, and if those people get sick and that virus starts mutating, it could be bad. And they don't know that much about this thing yet. So the best way to do it, the best way to take care of this, if you have a huge population of like a billion people, would be to lock everything down, figure it out, and then go back to life as normal. Maybe you overreacted, maybe you didn't, but I think China might be overreacting a little bit here because they saw what SARS does. Also, you've got the panic, okay? People in Chicago, people in New York City, people in London, people in Sydney, they're overflowing the hospitals right now because they have a cough. It's cold and flu season, folks, and you have a cough. You probably don't have the craziest virus to be released in 2020 or found in 2020. You probably have a cold or a flu or whatever, but people want to play it safe, so they go to the hospitals, they overwhelm them. Now, this is in places where it hasn't been confirmed. Imagine if you're in this city where it's been confirmed, their hospitals are overwhelmed. These videos you see of doctors crying and people dying in the hallways, it's not because of the virus, it's because of the people, it's because of the panic. Okay, the doctors aren't crying, screaming that we need more resources because there's so many people sick, there's so many cases. They're crying, saying we need more resources because there's so many people. And they don't even know how many of these people are sick. These people are transmitting it to each other by going to the hospital, right? The way you should do it. Now, if you think you have it, like let's say you were in Wuhan and you went to, I don't know, let's say Chicago or Boston. Let's say Boston. You were in Wuhan, you went to Boston, you're sitting at home, you get a cough. The way you should handle this is this virus isn't going to kill you right away. There's nobody that gets it and drops dead, right? Like you see symptoms and then it slowly happens. Call up the hospital, say, hey, I was just in this place, had contact with these people, I could have it. They are going to clear things out. They're going to get someone over to your house to test you. They're going to be super cautious about it. They're going to make sure that you don't run into people, that you're sort of quarantined for a little bit. And everybody's going to thank you for it. The last thing you want to do is go into a busy hospital where there's all these people with susceptible immune systems and say, hey, guess what, guys? I might have a virus. Like, that's really bad. And that's one of the reasons that you lock down a city, because the people that are most susceptible, most likely to die of this virus, are likely in a hospital. So those people with the virus going to a hospital, really bad deal. Really bad deal. So if you're China, maybe they locked it down because of that. They know that the hospitals are getting overwhelmed. They can see that. They lock down the city, tell people not to leave, and that's going to help sort of contain it, right? People are going to become less panicked, and hopefully, once these people have been in their house for a week and they're not sick, they're thinking, all right, I'm probably in the clear. Less likely to panic, good. And then if they get sick, they're going to think, well, maybe it's a cold, or, something like that, right? Like, it's a lot easier if people are contained, and I think that's what China's doing. And the reason that they're building another hospital, another quarantine area, I think is, again, because there's people panicking and this virus is going to spread, and if you want to properly quarantine it, you need the rooms, you need the beds for these people. All right, so I think we've covered a lot of stuff. I've said a lot of stuff here. Hopefully it's making sense. Hopefully it's pretty articulate. I've been looking into this a lot. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm just trying to get my opinion out there and sort of help some of you guys who are panicking. If you're outside of China and you haven't had contact with anybody from China or from Wuhan directly, you're probably safe. There are a few cases in Germany of one person giving it to their colleague, but they were in extremely close contact for a number of hours. I think there's a bus driver in France or Germany that got it from some tourists he was taking around. Again, extremely close contact. Right now, this virus is only spreading through extremely close contact. It's not like you're on the subway, someone coughs, and 2 trains down, you're getting it. What it is you're on the subway, someone coughs in your face, now you're at risk. Another thing, these masks, a lot of people are saying that they're not helpful. True and false. From what I understand, a mask is good because it's going to keep you from touching your lips and your mouth and your nose. And that's how a lot of these viruses get spread. So, masks are good, don't panic. But again, if you just don't touch your lips, mouth, or nose, that's probably going to help too. Wash your hands, obviously, that's important. This is one of the things a lot of people forget. Some of these countries, their hygiene isn't quite the same. No offense, but it just isn't. I've been there, I've seen it. So it's a little bit more likely to spread in some of these places, right? In a place like China, it's probably a little bit more likely to spread than a place like the United States. And I can make that comparison directly. It's no hate for me. Love the country, but just it is what it is. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to cover. There's a lot of conspiracies out there, and a lot of them are just crazy, right? China is trying to keep this thing under wraps. They're not releasing some of the information. And they're not telling you hospitals have millions of people in them and it's going nuts, and then you see a video of it and people panic. But a lot of that's because they want to prevent people from panicking, and if they just let news crews run around and make this thing look bigger than it is, people would panic more, and that panic does lead to deaths. There are people who have legitimately died because people are panicking right now. So that is probably right now the total death count. This number is probably way lower than the number of people who have died because they're panicking, right? The number of people sitting in a hospital right now in China who are suffering a heart attack and they're not getting treated because there's a bunch of people who think they might have a disease that they likely don't have. Those people are dying. Those people are legitimately dying of huge, huge things. And they're dying because there's other people that are worried that their cold might be a virus that they might or might not be able to beat. Just keep that in mind, right? If you have a cold and you want to play it safe, don't go to work from home. Don't go out on the subway, but don't run to the hospital. That's not playing it safe. That's endangering a lot of other people. If you are having trouble breathing, that is a sign that things have gone too far. Then you should be headed to the hospital. But again, call them up, let them know that you're coming. Maybe they're going to send an ambulance for you. They're going to figure out a way to get you in there without hurting other people. So you want to give them the heads up that you're coming. And the last thing you want to do is panic and go for any old reason. So that covers that. It's not related to Corona beer. I don't know why people think that. Also with food, it doesn't seem to be infecting food. People said there was a case in Australia where it was infecting food, and people are getting it that way. But if you look at these cases, yeah, it's not really spreading out like it is in Wuhan. So I highly doubt it's in the food. People have gotten it going through the airport. It's definitely a human-to-human thing. It definitely can be transmitted that way. The biggest transmission factor right now seems to be this epicenter, this market in Wuhan. So maybe it's more likely to be gotten from an animal than it is from a person, from human-to-human contact. We don't know, and human-to-human contact might have been something that evolved after it started jumping to people too. So you got to keep in mind that's one of the things, right? The sooner you lock this down, you get it under control, the better, and that's what China's trying to do. A lot of these things that people are saying seem so rash, that seem so crazy, seems like they're doing too much and they're covering it up because there's only 213 deaths. A lot of it's to prevent more deaths. It's not because they have a number. It's not because there's millions of people dead in this city. It's because they don't want millions of people to die. And they know that some of these people that would die, they die over things that are not related to this virus, but related to the panic. And one of the key things to do, one of the things that's most important right now is to keep people from panicking, in my opinion. And that's this is how China's doing it. Yeah, I think that's about it. I don't have anything else to cover, but hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this helped you guys out. Hopefully it was interesting. And that's all I've got to say about that. If you really want to worry about something, if you're really worried about something killing you, common flu more likely to kill you. Same with the common cold. Fires in Australia, if you live there, that smoke's probably worse for you than this thing. if you're living in China, the pollution's probably worse for you than this virus. Yeah, so don't panic, don't go nuts. If you want to take precautions, just put a face mask on and don't go out drinking or do anything that would sort of hurt your immune system. But it seems like most people are going to be able to take care of this virus if they get it just through their immune system. The biggest concern we have and the biggest thing we want to watch out for is a mutation. That's what we don't want. We don't want this thing to mutate and become a killer zombie virus. That's probably not going to happen, but again, mutation is what we want to worry about most. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention here, look at this number. 204 of the deaths have been in this province. This is where most of the panic's going on. And I guess some of these people have died just because they're panicked, right? Because they got this thing. There's other people in the hospital and they don't have enough resources for everybody that's sick. That is a concern. Having enough resources for everyone that's sick is a concern, but the best way to do this is to wait until you think you need those resources before going in and taking them. So yeah, that's it. That's the coronavirus and my sort of talk or spiel about it from January 30th of 2020. Hopefully none of these numbers appear to be true, or hopefully these numbers are true, right? Hopefully the numbers aren't greater than they are. Hopefully all the conspiracy theorists are wrong. China does have a history of covering things up, just like sort of the Soviet Union did. Whether or not they're covering this up remains to be seen. My guess, they're playing these numbers down a little bit, but not by what people are thinking. I don't think there's people dead in their houses in Wuhan or anything like that, especially given that outside of China, you can see people have gotten the cases, and so far people aren't dying. Like, things aren't going crazy. If in China things were going nuts, you'd start to see it in some of these other cities, especially Chicago. You saw a case, and it's already spread. You'd see it there. You'd probably see it in Thailand. You'd probably see it in Germany. And we're not seeing it. So that's a good sign so far. Fingers crossed, in a month, this is going to be something that we've all forgotten about, and we're on to the next thing. But yeah, so moral of the story, don't panic. Stay safe, and if you get a cough, don't visit the hospital. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. This is Serial Overdrive. If it's needed, I'm going to make a follow-up to this, but I thought I'd just sort of cover all this stuff, throw it out there, and see what people think. I do like doing these videos, too, so it's fun for me and hopefully fun/educational for you. Not that this is a fun thing. It is very serious, and my heart goes out to those people who are affected, and especially the people who've died. Thanks for watching.